Alaina, and this session is about tackling technical writing, which is super exciting. So I am an engineer. I work at a US-based company called Nadia. It's a place where a lot of people write blogs. It's a fun place. I also consider myself a writer. I've done a lot of technical writing and then also personal, non-technical writing. And I also think of myself as a logophile, which is a fancy way of saying that I am a word nerd. I believe Eleanor yesterday introduced me to some new words, and I was super excited to get that at a tech conference. At any time during this talk, you are free to say hi to me, give me feedback, share questions, thoughts, etc. on Twitter. I share my handle right here, and then I'll have it in the bottom corner of all of my slides. All right, so today I'll be talking to you about technical writing, and technical writing has a pretty simple definition: writing about technology. Anyone is capable of technical writing, and in fact, our industry needs accessible, empathetic, and thorough technical writing. Not just our industry, but the Ruby community as well. Newcomers and veterans alike hone their skill set by reading thorough technical writing that is created by authors with perspectives different from their own. Best practices and Ruby standards are communicated in writing. There's a problem here. People in tech balk at writing, even though it's super, super important. Why is that? Well, they tend to turn away because of fear, uncertainty, and indifference. These are the biggest meta blockers that live inside many of us, that prevent us from contributing to the written anthology of the Ruby community. So, time to destroy them. Why let fear stop you when it's normal to be afraid? All of us fear writing something incorrect. All of us fear writing something that's unhelpful. We want to create our best possible work, but sometimes it's better to hit publish than to agonize over those internal fears and doubts for months and months. Why feel uncertain when technical writing benefits your career prospects? Documenting your knowledge and sharing it with others in the Ruby community can only bolster your reputation and the amount of people that know you, know your expertise. It's a good thing. Publishing your writing can also lead to job opportunities, conference speaking slots, kind of like this one right here, and invitations to collaborate on cool projects. Why feel indifferent when the future of our industry is at stake? The technical writing that people in tech and in the Ruby community produce today will benefit those who enter the Ruby community tomorrow. In its earliest days, technology was pretty arcane and inaccessible, and contemporary technical writing reflected that. Now, many of us are pushing for tech to be more inclusive and accessible than ever before. It's our duty to create technical writing that supports people of diverse backgrounds who want to enter the Ruby community. Now that I've motivated why people in the Ruby community should pursue technical writing, the big question is, how? How can you produce high-quality technical writing? As a paid freelance technical writer, I'll share with you my process. The technical writing process can be broken down into 5 distinct phases. And here they are. It's brainstorming, writing, honing, publishing, and reflecting. In this talk, I will share 10 tips that you can use to up your technical writing game. I matched 2 tips to every phase of the writing process that I mentioned earlier. For each tip, I share a common blocker, which I like to think of as a state of mind that would stop you from writing, and then a reality check that helps debunk that blocker. In this way, I hope to erase any remaining fear, uncertainty, and indifference towards writing. So, let's get started. the first phase of the technical writing process is brainstorming. Brainstorming is what happens before you actually start writing. It's just thinking of ideas of things that you'd like to write about. So my first tip for brainstorming is write about how you solved a technical problem. To that, some people in this room might say, I have nothing to write about. I'm no expert. Can I get a quick show of hands if you felt this way before? I'll raise mine too, because I've definitely felt this way. All right, we're getting pretty close to unanimous yes on that statement. It's totally relatable. So the reality here is that you don't need to be an expert in order to write. All you need to do is talk about your experience, what you care about, what you did, and then what you learned from that. Even if somebody already wrote a blog post on like a Ruby topic that you're really passionate about, that subject is not devoid of new ideas. Your voice has room there. What makes your subject matter unique is you. My second tip for brainstorming is don't feel pressured to only write about code. To that, some people might be thinking, I can't teach someone how to code while I'm still learning. The truth is that writing about code is only a subset of technical writing. As I mentioned earlier, technical writing is writing about technology, and yes, technology includes code, but technology is not exclusively code. If you write about anything related to technology, the tech industry, the Ruby community, etc., it counts as technical writing. The second phase of the technical writing process is writing. Unsurprising. Writing, so writing is also unsurprisingly when you roll up to your computer, start typing things out. It's when you create your first draft. My first tip for writing is to break things into steps or sections. This tip is helpful if you feel like your writing isn't very coherent. I get another show of hands for people who aren't super confident in their writing abilities. All right. The reality is that a little organization goes a long way in improving your writing. Something I like to do is write the headers of the various sections that I will put in my blog post before filling out the whole post. This helps me plan ahead and determine what direction I want my writing to go in. Then, once my blog post is written, the reader will have a clear-cut understanding of my agenda. This will draw in the right readers who will actually get something from reading your piece. My second tip for writing is to include images, diagrams, hyperlinks, all the media. This tip is helpful if you feel like your explanations are too long-winded. So, reality check here is that it's hard to keep people engaged with just words. Oftentimes, the best way to explain technical concepts to someone is through diagrams, doodles, GIFs, all that stuff. Actual code snippets can also enhance your writing by replacing many, many paragraphs about code. It's often more concise to just include code. Sprinkling links throughout your writing that say learn more or something like that can also be better than going on tangents that distract from your main point. Also, I know that, well, you all know that I'm a huge writing proponent, but I think that people shouldn't be afraid to eschew writing for non-traditional formats of communicating their ideas, like sketchnoting, filmmaking, podcasting. You do you. Express your creativity and what you want to say in whatever way works for you. The third phase of the technical writing process is honing. I like to think of this as the period between that first draft and a piece that you're actually ready to publish. So another good word for this would be editing. My first tip for editing and honing is to ask your friends to look over your writing. This tip is helpful if you feel self-conscious about your writing skills. I'm going to ask for another show of hands here. Does anyone feel self-conscious about their writing skills? All right, same. So the truth is that even the best writers proofread their work and ask trusted others to do the same for them. It often helps to reach out to a variety of friends to help you proofread. Some who already understand the subject you're writing about, some who are in tech that maybe don't understand Ruby, don't know Ruby, and maybe even some who are complete beginners or who aren't familiar with tech. Once you publish your blog post, readers from all different backgrounds will be reading it. Asking friends that have perspectives outside of your own will help you discover weak points in your writing and then patch them up before you hit publish. Also, if you ask friends or coworkers, anyone for help, please give them a shout out at the end of your piece. I think that's a very nice way to recognize people that have helped you, and then also show future writers that if you are writing something, you're not alone. My second tip for the honing phase of the technical writing process is to be the reader, which is like a very nebulous phrase, so I'll explain that in a second. Some of you might be afraid that your writing won't make sense. I think that the best way to reduce the possibility of miscommunication is to put yourself in the shoes of your reader. So I'm going to share something related to Twilio, which I believe is the conference sponsor. How exciting. I did some freelance writing for Twilio earlier in the year, and I picked up some really cool techniques that they use for their technical writing, which are called voice and technical reviews. So doing a voice review effectively means reading your blog post aloud and then editing it whenever you find points of confusion. Oftentimes, saying your words out loud helps you see if you worded something in a really wonky way. And then for tutorials that involve code, there's an additional proofreading technique you can use called a technical review, in which you code step by step alongside your tutorial and see if you end up with the correct final product. Oftentimes you'll find out that you don't end up with the correct technical product. So this is really useful because one of the most frustrating things is going through tutorial and then just getting sidetracked by errors that you don't understand. I know there are people in this room who have been software engineers for a while who are comfortable handling these errors, but for someone who is new to tech, to Ruby, to coding, these errors are super scary. Pretending to be the reader can help you anticipate places where these newcomers might get lost, and then if you patch them up before you hit publish, you can keep those newcomers reading and engaged and successful in following your blog post. So the fourth phase of technical writing is publishing. And publishing, of course, is hitting that little publish button, whatever you do in order to get your writing live. But I think that there's a flip side to publishing, which is publicizing. And publicizing is kind of the marketing that you do or just the sharing that you do in order to get your words out there. I like to think of publishing and publicizing together because as soon as I publish something, I go straight to publicizing it. My first tip for publishing is to leverage popular technical writing outlets. This tip is helpful if you're afraid that no one will read or benefit from your writing. Can I get a show of hands for people who have felt this way before? This was me paralyzed back in August of 2016, about to publish my first ever piece of writing online. I thought it would be totally useless, so I get where you're coming from here. The reality is that you can be tactical about gaining readership. The first step to getting people in front of your writing is to share it with friends, family, people that are already close to you and invested in you. Don't be embarrassed to share this on social media as well because you put hard work into this. But if you're looking to expand your readership beyond your network, I do have a few tips for you. As someone who works at Medium, you know you're not going to get through this talk without me bringing up stuff on Medium, so it's coming right now. So there are a few publications on Medium that have really high traffic and a lot of followers. These are Free Code Camp, Hacker Noon, Code Like a Girl. I'm sure there are more. You can just find them anywhere on Medium. And what's great about these publications is that they do social media marketing for you. They will often tweet out your piece, they'll share it in a newsletter, they'll just get it in front of more eyes than you might be able to alone. Another place outside of Medium that is equally amazing at social media marketing and then also has an amazing developer community is called dev.to, the Practical Devs website. They have, I think, hundreds of thousands of followers, not sure how many users, but I have had pieces tweeted out by them before, and I've gotten a lot of traction just from that, so I totally recommend that. So my second tip for publishing is to include a call to action. This tip helps if you worry that no one will interact with your writing. So in this case, the power of suggestion goes a really long way. Consider including a footer at the end of your blog post that provides your contact information, which could be your email address, your Twitter handle, whatever you would like people to talk to you on. And then after that, you could include a sentence that tells your readers what they can do to show appreciation for your writing if they enjoyed it. Should they like it? Should they share it? Should they follow up with their ideas in the comments? Should they email you? If you tell the people reading your story what you'd like them to do, they'll be much more likely to actually do that thing and reach out. The fifth and final phase of technical writing is reflecting. This may be seen as a little extra, but I find it incredibly useful to stay engaged with what I've written and also think about what I will create in the future. So I'll share some tips here. So my first tip for reflecting is to be available to respectful commenters. Respectful being a very important word in this sentence. Have you ever felt afraid of getting hate online? Oh wow, people put up their hands before I asked. Anyone feel this way? Show of hands? Yeah, fair amount of people in the room. There's no great reality check here. The answer is that I also feel this way. I irrationally feel my stomach sink whenever I get a notification on Medium or dev.to thinking that things are gonna go downhill, someone really hated what I did, or just some sort of crazy out there comment happened. There's no way to circumvent how bad it can feel to get a mean response, but the best strategy for handling those is either to ignore them or to kill them with kindness. I'd say take your pick. I think they both have their merits. However, when someone actually takes the time out of their life to write a nice comment, I believe that that merits a response from you, even if it's just simply a like or a thank you. It'll make you feel very warm and fuzzy on the inside. I know that's how I feel. And it will also warm the heart of your readers. Bonus here is that this personal touch will keep people invested in your blogging efforts. Related to investment is my final tip, which is strive for consistency. This tip is helpful if you believe that you cannot build up a following with your words alone. The reality here is that you can build up a following with words and good marketing, but only if you're consistent with your writing. It's a sad thing to look at someone's blog and see that their last post was written in 2014. You probably stumbled upon their blog by accident at that point. I heard an "it's me" somewhere in here. That's funny. If you set a weekly or monthly writing goal and publicize your new content when it comes out, you can both attract your current readers and then, attract new readers and then retain your current readers. Assuming that you're not like Twitter famous or anything, no reader will invest in your words unless they're consistent. So that's it. Those are the 10 tips. Super exciting. These will help you tackle technical writing, but like any good technical writer, I cannot let you go and get your afternoon tea before I share this call to action. So it's activity time. This is great because many of you might be in a bit of a afternoon lull. If you could take out a sheet of paper, your phone, a laptop, anything that you can write on will suffice, and then take about 30 seconds to jot down something that you'd like to write about. I'm sure I've freed up some ideas during my talk. So 30 seconds, starting now. Fifteen-second warning. 5-second warning. All right, finish your thoughts if you'd like to, but I will continue this lovely talk. So ideally you've written something on your sheet of paper, on your phone, computer, etc. I'm sure it's an awesome idea. When you leave this conference, I'd like you to follow my tips and then go write the blog post that you've been dreaming about writing. If you're not incentivized enough, I will happily up the ante for you. Tweet whatever you publish to me, and then I will retweet it, thereby giving you my audience and help you share your words with the world. If the tips and incentives to write don't do it for you, maybe some of my literary sappiness will, and I think this is probably the most effective technique by far. I'll close with one of my favorite Vaughan quotes that inspires me to write. To practice an art, no matter how well or badly, is to make your soul grow. So do it. You were interested enough in this talk, in RubyConf, in this community, to improve your technical writing. So go do it. Thank you very much for listening to this lovely technical writing talk. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter with questions, comments, wisdom, Vonnegut things, I don't know, anything you'd like. And then you can check out these slides at this lovely bit.ly link. And then if there's time, I will happily take a few questions. There's time? Oh, okay, cool. Oh, hello? Yes.
Do you have any thought on where in your learning journey of something it's most valuable to write about it for the benefit of others?
Ooh, that is a great question. So I will start this with a caveat. I am pretty new to the tech industry. I am 6 months into my first job, so I haven't experienced all these. I feel like I'm not super far along in my learning process, so I can't speak to the future, but I would anticipate that I think all phases are good. Like whenever you're learning something, whenever you are like approaching something new, it's very helpful to write about it, both to solidify your own knowledge and then also to pass on that knowledge to others. If there are any more senior engineers who are also writers that would like to take on that question from their perspective, I'd be happy to entertain that as well. I mean, if not, it's okay. It's your conference.
Whatever you want to say, there's always someone that's where you are right now. Write it down right now.
That's awesome. Thank you, Sandy. We can, clap for that. It's a good one. Ooh. This is a good one. Me personally, or in a general tip sense?
In the general tip sense.
Huh. I feel like this answer is an attempt to generalize something that I feel, so it might be a little flawed in that sense, but personally I would not want my first thing that I publish to be super vulnerable. I'd be pretty scared. I feel like the more someone publishes their writing, the more vulnerable they are willing to get. Of course, there can be some things that you want to keep to yourself, and you should know that, and people should respect that. But I have seen myself get a bit more vulnerable with time. Any other? Oh, hello. There are two over there, so I guess you two can go in any order.
Hi. You spoke about technical writing not necessarily needing to be about code.
Mm-hmm.
That it could be about a range of issues or community kind of stuff. And I'm curious about the combination of that and your speaking about worrying about reactions and vitriol that you might get from people if you're speaking maybe as an English person about domestic issues or things that can be quite sort of emotional or hot issues for people that often get a lot of vitriol. I just don't know how to do that, how to protect yourself and others that might be seeing that vitriol.
I think that's another fantastic question that I wonder a lot as well.
Could you
I-
repeat the question, please?
Sure, I can go ahead and paraphrase. I'll paraphrase it to the best of my ability. So the question is, as an underrepresented individual in tech, there tends to be more, a greater probability of vitriol coming your way. So do I have any strategies for dealing with that? I have strategies. I would also, I'll share them. I think that there might be more tech veterans in the audience, people who have been around longer than I have that have better strategies and coping methods, or at least more of them. But personally, I use the mute and block functions on Twitter liberally. It's great. As for sharing things, I don't think I've shared anything so personal that I would have a lot of fears for my life and well-being. But if anyone in the audience does have some tips or advice in that area, I would love to hear it as well, because it would help me too. A question is open to anyone.
Anonymity might be a tool.
Sorry?
Anonymity.
This is true. There's actually an engineer that I know that recently published something anonymously for that exact reason.
Or under a pseudonym.
Yes, pseudonym. Yes. And then I saw a hand over here with some thoughts, maybe?
Yes, one of the other strategies I've heard used is if you have published something which has attracted a lot of controversy, to ask a friend to screen your tweets and your emails for a certain period of time so that you don't have to do that yourself. And then you can choose which responses you personally have to respond to, because someone has acted on your behalf who's removed from the situation, who deals with those first responses, I guess.
That's an awesome tip. I feel like a lot of staying and surviving in the tech industry has to do with having those friends or having a community. So I believe that. If anyone has any other thoughts on here, I'd love to hear them.
How can we change the tech community and the online community so that writers don't have to put up with the kind of vitriol that we tend to get?
Wow. That is a fantastic question. Change the online community. So this is going to be a medium specific example. Recently, Medium updated its terms of service and banned, I believe that this wording might be a little off, but I believe they banned people who have like dangerous behavior like off of the platform as well as on the platform, which is something that many online platforms seem hesitant to do, and I'm very proud of Medium for taking that step. So this is about maybe a couple of weeks into that, but I am faithful that something like that would help mitigate like the toxicity of online communities, assessing people's behavior both on and off the platform. Also, this is another question I'd love to open up because these sorts of questions take like a community and an array of like perspectives to answer. So if anyone has thoughts on this, I would love to hear them. Yes?
I think there's a concern about censorship. So how do you decide which ideas and which voices need to be silenced? It's a very big call to make. So that's the other side of the danger.
I think that's a valid point, yes. The point was that censorship and like the freedom of speech is kind of the other side of that coin. It's tough to demarcate what is toxic and what is, I guess, what is toxic but legal, but what is from what is toxic but illegal. Yes.
Unrelated, but what are your favourite words, given you're a word nerd?
Ooh, let me think about this. So, I can share one that I don't know if everyone, I don't know if everyone caught this word from Eleanor's talk, but I'm going to bring it up again because I thought it was pretty cool. One sec, just scrolling through my Twitter to find it. So, the word was stratigraphy, which I thought was pretty cool, which is the study of the order and position of rock layers. Like, just a fun new thing that I learned at this conference. Yes?
I guess my question is, have you ever had any hesitancy if you're working on or you've wanted to write about a bug or a problem you found in software or something you've been working on at work when you're aware that, well, the people who wrote this or contributed to this or my bosses will have sort of visibility on this? Like, how do you work out when the thing that you are writing about has other stakeholders in the content you are producing?
I see. Do you mean, are you talking about whether I claim all of the work as my own versus someone else's, or are you approaching that in a different way?
More sort of, I guess, if you are approaching legacy code and you want to deal with, here were some bad choices, if the person who wrote those bad choices is someone who is likely to read what you are writing. That is a situation that I have not yet been in, but I can share some thoughts there. I guess I think this is from Katie's talk about the JavaScript is awful talk. Something I liked about that was the reframing of these like awful, crazy things in JavaScript to be just design decisions that were made for actually intelligent reasons. So I feel like I would definitely hesitate to call out someone for writing awful code ever, because it could have been the best option at the time. Could have been like high stress situation. They could have been a junior engineer like me and they didn't know what the best thing to do was. So yeah, I can't ever envision myself calling someone out for writing terrible code. I feel like it's okay to point out flaws and talk about how you fix them, but in a way that is kind. Yeah. Hi.
Hello, thank you for your talk. So for phase 2 writing, you said to break things into sections. Like you put down the headers first, the headings, and then you fill each heading up.
Yes.
What's the happy ratio you found with headers and content for each header?
That's a good question. So I definitely have opinions in this area. One thing that I have opinions about is that a paragraph should be, whenever I write online, I like to keep my paragraphs like 3 or 4 sentences maximum, just so they're broken up into chunks that are easy to read and skim. And then I think headers, I feel like I don't care so much about paragraph number with the headers, as long as those paragraphs are broken up nicely and maybe there are some images or other things to look at along the way, so it doesn't just feel like you're scrolling through a block of text. Yeah. I think I see another question over here.
As well as images, how about emojis in writing? Any thoughts on that? Another question.
I condone it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Keep going.
How about the relative merits of screencasts versus technical writing for describing things related to programming?
I think it's super helpful to include screencasts as GIFs or videos. Like, I think that is awesome because there are some things that even if you put them in words, it would be less intuitive than seeing like an image or a video itself. Any other questions? I think I see one in the back.
Is there a sweet spot for the length of an article?
Ooh. This could be an incorrect paraphrase, but I think I saw somewhere once that on Medium, like 7-minute reads tend to do really well. Don't know why that is. I think that I generally try to do less than 1,000 words, but I do have some post out there on dynamic programming that is thousands upon thousands of words, just because there's like so much to explaining that concept at an introductory level. But I'd like to keep things shorter. Yeah. Any other questions? If not, I think we're all good here to go to afternoon tea, right?
Thank you. UMC.